Let's jump right into the core of how music is made by strings.
Okay, so with every instrument in this family, from a tiny violin to a huge double bass, it all relies on one really simple principle.
And that's just vibration, right? A
Yeah.
stretched string vibrating.
That's it. It's a very basic piece of physics, but how we control those vibrations, that's where the music really happens.
And that control, it comes down to three things that decide the pitch of the note, whether it's high or low.
Right. You've got the string's length, its thickness, and the tension, or how tight it is.
So if you want a higher note, you can shorten the string.
Yep, by pressing down on it, or you make it tighter, or you just use a thinner string to begin with.
And all those things are interacting constantly.
Exactly. But, if you just stretch a rubber band and pluck it, you barely hear anything. The vibration is just too small.
So that's where the instrument's body comes in.
That's it. The wooden, hollow body is the amplifier. It takes that tiny bit of energy and makes it loud enough for us to actually hear.
And when a player presses a finger down on, say, a violin neck, they're instantly shortening the vibrating part of that string.
And that makes the pitch shoot right up. It takes incredible precision, especially because you don't have any frets to guide you.
Okay, so with those basics in mind, let's walk through the main voices in an orchestra's string section. We can go from highest to lowest.
Perfect. Let's start with the sharp, clear voice of the violin.
The violin is the smallest and the highest-pitched member of the family. It's the one you usually hear carrying the main melody.
It rests on the player's left shoulder, tucked right under the chin, and a full-sized one is only about 14 inches long in the body.
It has four strings, tuned to G, D, A, and E. But you mentioned the big challenge for anyone learning it.
The massive challenge, it has no frets.
The fret challenge. Why is that such a game changer?
Because without those little metal strips to mark the notes, the player has to develop this extremely sharp sense of hearing.
Memory in their fingers, right?
Yeah. Exactly, tactile memory. You have to find the perfect spot on the neck. If you're off by just a millimeter.
You're out of tune.
Completely. But that fretless design is also what gives it so much expressive power. It lets players slide between notes, which is a sound a fretted instrument just can't make.
So the difficulty is what creates the beauty. Okay, so moving down just a step in pitch, we get to the viola.
Right. It looks a lot like a violin, but it's a little bit bigger.
And that small size difference really changes the sound.
It does. It's usually between 15 and 17 inches long, and that extra size gives it this deeper, more mellow, warmer sound. People often describe it as soulful.
And its job in the orchestra isn't really to be the star.
Not usually. It fills in that crucial middle ground. It, weaves together the harmonies between the high violins and the low cellos. Its strings are tuned a fifth lower than the violins.
What I find fascinating is that viola players have to read music differently. Why do they need that special alto clef?
That's a great question. It's really just for practical reasons. If the music was written in the regular treble clef, the notes would be too low on the page.
And if it was in the bass clef?
They'd be way too high. So the alto clef just centers the notes perfectly in the middle of the staff, which makes them way easier to read quickly.
That makes total sense. It's a design choice for pure efficiency. Now we're about to make a huge jump in size, down to the cello.
The cello is a dramatic instrument. Just its size commands respect. It stands about 48 inches tall, so you have to play it sitting down.
Right, it rests on the floor, and it's held up by that metal spike, the end pin. What's its tuning relationship with the viola?
It's tuned exactly one octave lower, and that gives it this rich, really resonant bass sound.
And people often say it sounds like the human voice.
They do. It has such a wide range, and the tone is often compared to a singer. It can play these deep, serious parts, but it can also soar up high for melodies.
It's really the baritone of the string section, providing that strong foundation.
Yeah. Absolutely. But we can go even lower, to the anchor of the entire orchestra, the double bass.
This thing is a giant. It can be over 6 feet tall.
It is. The musician either has to stand up or sit on a really high stool just to play it.
And those strings must be incredibly thick to get notes that low.
They're massive, and the vibrations they make are so powerful you can often feel them in the floor, not just hear them.
The double bass is also kind of the odd one out in the family when it comes to tuning, isn't it?
It is. The violin, viola, and cello are all tuned in what we call perfect fifths, but the double bass is almost always tuned in fourths.
Why the change? Is it about the sound?
Nope. It's purely for playability. The neck is so huge that tuning in fourths lets the player reach more notes without having to shift their hand a huge distance.
Yeah.
It's all about economy of motion.
That makes sense. It makes the instrument manageable. This is also the instrument where you often see players just plucking the strings.
Right, that's called pizzicato. And plucking with your fingers creates a totally different sound. It's very percussive and short.
And that's what you hear in jazz and bluegrass.
Exactly. In those styles, the bass needs to be that sharp, rhythmic heartbeat, not a long, sustained sound.
That's a perfect transition because now we can move outside the orchestra to instruments that are built on similar ideas but for very different jobs. Starting with probably the most popular string instrument in the world.
The guitar, for sure. It shares all the same basic principles, but its design is really all about accessibility.
And the key feature that makes it so accessible has to be the frets.
Precisely. Those metal strips along the neck are a game changer for beginners. They take all the guesswork out of finding the right note. You press the string down, and it's instantly in tune.
But we said earlier that the violin's lack of frets allows for more expression. Do frets limit the guitar?
A little bit, yeah. They lock you into a specific set of pitches, so you can't do those subtle, slippery slides between notes that you can on a violin. Guitars, of course, come in acoustic and electric models.
Right, hollow bodies for natural sound and electrics that need an amp.
Yep. And most standard guitars have a scale length of about 25 inches.
Okay, let's talk about a completely different design. The harp. It takes a very different approach to making notes.
It's totally unique. It has this big triangular frame, and here's the key difference. It has a separate string for every single note.
Every note. How many strings does that mean?
A standard professional pedal harp can have around 47 strings.
47. That seems like a huge task to keep in tune.
It is, but since you can't press down on the strings to change the pitch, you need a different string for every note you want to play. It's one of the oldest instruments we know of, and it creates this shimmering, almost magical sound.
And the mechanism for changing keys is maybe the most complex of all.
Oh, absolutely. The player uses both hands to pluck the strings, and at the same time, they're using 7-foot pedals. Each pedal can change the pitch of a whole set of strings at once.
So you're playing with your hands and your feet at the same time.
It's an incredible display of coordination. A professional harp stands about 70 inches tall.
Okay, we've covered the instruments, but let's go back to the mechanics. How exactly does a bow create that long, sustained sound?
The bow seems simple. It's just a stick with a ribbon of horsehair. But the secret isn't just friction. It's a process called stick slip.
Stick slip. That sounds scientific.
It is. First, you have to coat the bow hair in rosin, which is a sticky pine resin.
Right.
So when the sticky hair touches the string, it sticks and pulls it to the side. Then the tension gets too strong and the string slips back. The bow immediately grabs it again, and this cycle repeats hundreds of times a second.
It's not a smooth slide. It's a tiny, super fast cycle of grabbing and releasing.
Exactly. That's what creates the sustained vibration. And the player can adjust the tension of the bow hair with a little screw, which changes how hard it grips the string.
Let's talk about what these instruments are made of. High-end instruments are incredible feats of engineering, using wood that's been aged for years.
The wood choice is critical. The bodies are usually made from seasoned maple and spruce, and they do very different jobs. Spruce is used for the top of the instrument because it's light and it transmits vibrations really well.
And the maple for the back and sides.
Maple is much denser and harder. It acts like a reflector. The sound vibrates through the spruce top, bounces off the hard maple back, and projects outward. That's what gives the sound its brightness and clarity.
Incredible. And the strings themselves, they've changed over time, too.
Oh, yeah. Historically, they were made from sheep intestines. We call it gut.
Gut strings.
They have a really warm, complex tone. But today, most players use steel or synthetic nylon strings because they stay in tune much better, especially when the humidity changes.
And what about the other parts, like the fingerboard?
The fingerboard is usually made of ebony. It's a super hardwood that can stand up to all that wear and tear. But one of the coolest material choices is actually the glue.
The glue?
Yeah, they use a special animal hide glue.
Why use an old-fashioned glue like that instead of a modern super glue?
Because it's reversible. A repair expert, a luthier, can use steam to gently open up the seams of the instrument to do internal repairs without ever breaking the wood. It's designed to be repairable.
That is amazing foresight. Okay, let's talk about the constant battle with tuning. What makes an instrument go out of tune so often?
The number one enemy is humidity. Wood absorbs moisture from the air.
So when it's humid, the wood expands.
It swells up, and when it's dry, it shrinks. That constant expanding and contracting pulls on the strings and messes up the tension.
So it's not just the string slipping. The whole instrument is changing shape.
Exactly. That's why daily care is so important. You have to wipe it down after playing and keep it in a hard case to protect it from sudden changes. And a professional instrument should see a luthier at least once a year to make sure it stays healthy for, hundreds of years.
Let's circle back one last time to the sound box, the resonator. How does that amplification actually work?
The key part is the bridge. It's that little wooden piece the strings rest on. The string's vibration travels down through the bridge, which acts kind of like a piston, and transfers that energy into the hollow body. The air inside starts vibrating at the same frequency, and that's what makes the sound so much louder.
And the sound comes out through those huff holes on a violin, or the big round hole on a guitar.
Yep. And the exact shape and thickness of the wood is what gives each instrument its unique voice.
Finally, for anyone out there thinking about learning one of these, what kind of payoff are we talking about? It seems like a huge challenge.
It takes real patience and discipline. I mean, it can take months of practice, like 30 minutes a day for a beginner, just to get a clear, consistent sound without any scratching.
But the mental benefits are huge, right?
Absolutely. Playing a string instrument is an amazing workout for your brain. You have to read music and then translate that into very precise movements with both of your hands at the same time.
And for any of you listening who are around 13, that's actually a great time to start.
It really is. Your hands are usually big enough to handle most instruments, which sets you up for success.
So from the sharp vibration of a violin to the deep rumble of a double bass, string instruments are this perfect mix of science and art.
And understanding that every note is just a balance of physics, of length, thickness, and tension, really helps you appreciate the skill it takes to play.
See you next time.